Welcome to Miss Win Checking In, the space where creativity meets healing. Here, we explore the path of mindful expression through the lens of writing, wellness, and soulful storytelling. Take a moment to pause and ask yourself, how are you feeling right now? If you're watching this on YouTube, drop an emoji in the comments to represent how you're feeling. And then let's check in at the end. Let's take a deep breath, tune in, and prepare to create from within. Hey, 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 it's Miss Win checking in back with another meaningful episode. So today I have a special guest, Maya. Maya, what do you know about the strategies for emotional healing?
I feel like I learn more every day because every day I'm emotionally healing. Whether I want to
Mm,
or not, I have to. I think for all of us surviving in capitalism and trying to get by, do work, added to that being a woman, add to that being a woman of color, you cannot avoid having to face the things that you're healing from. And therefore, you're having to create strategies all the time to heal and present as you want to, whilst being able to get through whatever it is you're growing through.
yeah, yeah, I like that. Whatever it is that you're growing through. Yeah, and that's a good way to look at it. I mean, can you give us a specific strategy maybe that has been helpful in your emotional healing journey?
Definitely. I think for me, it's been accepting and understanding that the only thing you can control is yourself.
Mm,
So you have to aid you with everything you need. So unfortunately, coming from backgrounds such as ours, we are shamed often, called selfish, and told that you only care about yourself, or you're a bit self-consumed if you have certain boundaries. But at
mhm.
the end of the day, you're the one who's living your life and you're the one who's having to cope through whatever you're faced with. So you need to be a bit selfish sometimes and you need to put those boundaries in place. And people who interpret the boundaries as selfish are the problem, you aren't. And you can only control you. So that's the first way to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think for some of us, especially if you're a people pleaser or you were programmed to put other people's needs before yours, it's hard. I know for me, it's like some some kind of like courageous act of creating boundaries for myself or pulling back where I used to overextend or
Totally.
overgive or be misaligned or just really wanting to be helpful in a circle where it was like, I'm taking on too much and it's like all of these things. But like what was it for you, or did you ever struggle with that? And then if so, how did you get to a place where you're like, okay, I'm gonna start setting boundaries, I'm gonna change up something, and how did you go about that?
Did I struggle with it? Absolutely. I'm the eldest in a immigrant
Okay.
family. So
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, I'm very much programmed to people please, put everyone's needs in front of me. I've had a lot of early parentifying
Mm-hmm.
where because I was mature, which is something that I hate and detest that we're described as women, I was treated as if I was an adult already. So that's something that rings true for a lot of us. And I definitely did struggle with it at first. But what helped me get to the point of putting the boundaries and certain solutions in place was realizing that when I am in the need, when I need help with something, or when I'm at my absolute end, people who are asking of me all the time aren't there to give. They're not the ones who are giving me, even though they're asking me with their hands out. So I had
Mm-hmm.
to take that on and realize that actually I need to start doing things that are going to preserve myself because even if I care about the people around me, my family, my friends, whatever, I can't do anything if I'm at zero. So let's put my safety mask on first, and then I can help everyone else. And the biggest thing that helped me was therapy. I can't shout about it enough. I know, therapy isn't for everyone. Um, there's a lot of bad press for therapy. I think that we live
Mm-hmm.
in a society now where people think that people are over therapized. But I think that it is still a very crucial way, a starting point at least, to even get to become more self-aware. And when you're more self-aware, you have more power.
Yeah, that's definitely key, even in my own emotional healing journey, just that self-awareness and then the desire to do something about it. Because I think some people stop right there on their journey, like, oh, I'm aware of my issues.
Mm. Take me
But
as I am.
yeah, exactly. Love me as I
Mhm.
am. And it's like, okay, yes, but like some of the things that you're self-aware of could be trauma, and it could
Totally.
be like healed and made healthy. Like how do you, or do you, because I would say, and I agree with you, like our healing is our own, but what about when we can identify that maybe some healing needs to happen with like someone we absolutely love, but
Mm.
we can just see that, you know what I mean? Like how,
Yeah.
or do you even approach that person and say maybe you should work on this, or
I've had a lifetime of approaching people and saying you
mm,
should. I'm very good at telling people what they
okay.
need to be better at. But I've learned that unfortunately, until a person is ready to face it,
Hmm.
until a person is out of the denial stage, actually at the acceptance stage, and all the rest of it, they are nowhere near moving towards that. And you're just going to do yourself a disservice by wasting your energy trying to get this sorted, and it's
Hmm.
just not worth it. So I think in those situations you have a conversation with yourself, or people who you trust and would take emotional support from, and you think, does the value of this person in my life actually add up to the pain it causes? Because if a person is unhealed and not self-aware, there's no other route but pain, sadly. So we need to
Hmm.
look at this and think, right, does this, and I'm a big believer in breaks. I have a very, I don't want to say a very good relationship, but I have a better relationship with my dad, for example, now. But we had a six
Hmm.
year hiatus, and I needed that
Hmm.
to be able to have a good relationship with you now, and even be civil with you now. So I think we need to normalize cutting communication at least for a bit,
Hmm.
having time apart and seeing, is my life better or worse without you, or what could be better here, and weighing it up. Because if you keep that person around and you keep the communication up and they are continually hurting you, you can't see any difference without them. So
Hmm.
it's hard to tell. It's very foggy.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I know just from working with like victims of domestic violence and that whole dynamic, sometimes it's hard to cut those people off because they bring in some sort of benefit. And I learned this
Mm.
just the other day, but in the way that I was learning about it, it was in regards to like money dynamics and reaching the next level of money income and energy and stuff. But it also kind of applies to this. I'm going to get around to it. So she was saying something about like look at where you are right now in life and look at, you know, how it's benefiting you, but also look at how it's negatively impacting you. And she was saying this in regards to like your job, your career, you know, how you bring in income, but we can also look at that as far as our relationships and okay, how is this benefiting me, but also how might this be limiting me? And she was saying this as far as like neutralizing it. So then you can, if you're interested in going to the next level, well, you have to see it in both ways. So that way you can start doing something about, okay, it's benefiting me, but is it really like are the benefits counseling are weighing out, like you said, weigh it out. Are the benefits weighing out the negatives? And if the negatives are over the positives, then it's like those pros and cons basically. Like what's the pros, what's the cons? Are you okay with that? Are you for real? Like that denial as well can be something that you have to deal with in order to have a better life and to have
Totally.
better if that's what you want.
Absolutely. And I'm a big believer of like surrounding yourself with people who you can learn from and who you want to be like. And I think if
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us are honest with ourselves, the people that we are always trying to justify, should you be in my life, should you not, are usually people you don't want to be like. So why would you keep them around just because they are a family member or they are a friend or you've got a lot of memories with them and stuff like that? And I totally hear your point. I think I've had a very unique journey in that I haven't been reliant on my parents or on people from quite a young age. So that's given
Mm-hmm.
me the freedom to just cut off. Some of my friends who live at home with their parents, for example, and their parents can be quite abusive or unhelpful. They can't, it's not as simple for them to just not speak to their
Right.
parent because they literally are dependent on them. So this comes back to a bigger conversation of encouraging, especially women, to become more independent from an earlier
Mhm.
age, to avoid falling into the category of being abused by anybody. That, it doesn't, we think of abuse and we think of like a romantic relationship, but I know a lot of parent-child dynamics which are extremely abusive.
Mm.
And it starts there because if you have a parent-child dynamic which is abusive, then you're going to probably go and find that in a adult relationship, and it's just going to continue the cycle. So yeah, I feel like as women, 100% the cards are against us and it's a lot harder, but we do need to have a bit of ownership with making things for ourselves better because nobody else is going to. We've got to do it for ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. I seen something on Threads from another person I will have on this podcast, and she was saying, she recognized that nobody was coming to save her at the age of 9. And I'm
Mm.
thinking, man, when did that click for me? Like, when did I realize that nobody was coming to save me and I had to do it? I want to say this was probably just recently.
Last week.
I'm a single mom and I was living with family, which I was grateful for that. But I'm like, dang, I want to be in my own place, which I'm in my own place now. I'm like, I want all these things. And I was just thinking, oh, maybe I'll move out of family's home when I get married. What? I had to get
Mm,
going before then. I'm like, Lord knows when I'm gonna get married. So I'm like, no, I have to get out. And then another part of myself, now that I am in my own place, it's like, actually, I like this. I like to govern myself. I like to be
mm,
sovereign. That's a word I've been using a lot lately. Is like, I'm a sovereign being. I'm sovereign in my faith. I'm sovereign. And I do well around others who can manage themselves. Like they don't
mm,
need me to and it's even in business. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I do really well when I'm in dynamics where they're doing their best with their business. I'm doing my best with my business, and we can come together and it's like a win-win situation for real. And it's like, oh, okay, that's what I want. That's what I want more of. Because and maybe some of that was because of trauma. Was because I had to be, I'm also an older child. I'm the oldest daughter. I have
mhm,
one sister. But even then, kind of having to take care of my mom at one point because, just that was just what it was for a while. And so it was like I think a lot of it came from what, I had a lot of responsibilities early on.
mhm.
Now as a single mom, I'm like, I don't really want a whole lot of extra responsibilities. I need people to do their share.
It's interesting because I'm actually 35 weeks pregnant today.
Okay,
And
congrats.
thank you. And I've realized in pregnancy that I don't have enough friends who are like practically nurturing. So
Mm,
being pregnant, all I've wanted is to go to someone's house and them cook me a meal, and I don't have to
yeah.
think about that. And just practical acts of service is what I've really craved. It's my love language already, but being
Yeah.
pregnant, it's like times a thousand. And I've got a
Mm,
lot of friends who are, very good at giving me words of affirmation, telling me how well I'm
mm,
doing, listening, let's go somewhere and do something, have some quality time if you need. But all I want is that, like, mother me, nurture me, look after me, do
mm,
take care of
mhm,
my basic needs. And I don't have enough friends that do that. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's just
mhm,
that my friends haven't yet entered that stage because I'm the first of my friends who are having a baby and stuff like that. So they're
mm,
not that way inclined. So I
mhm,
need to find and surround myself with more people who are that way so that I can lean on them when I'm in going through massive transitional life changes like this. Um,
mhm,
so yeah, totally hear what you mean about how when you have had an experience and when you have experiences which does separate you from your peers, you need different things.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. And I think that's a growth. Even though maybe it for me, I feel like this was trauma. But I'm also like I'm grateful. Maybe I'm a little bit grateful, or I'm okay with. I'm in a place where it's like okay, because of that experience, I now have this that I need to be filled. Like I need this box to be checked over here because that's just what I need, and that's okay. And I think being able to even say that out loud just now is just like like a release, like, oh, okay,
Mm,
like it's okay that that happened to you, and it's okay that you now need this because that happened, and it just is what it is.
definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, okay. So, emotional healing, what does that actually mean to you? And then what does that look like?
Checking in with myself,
Mm,
going through the motions of doing something in my head and taking note of how it makes me feel.
mm,
So I was a big advocate of, you know, get through it and see how you feel after. And it's interesting because I think this is definitely generational. I've got a cousin who's 21 and we were
mm,
supposed to meet today. And this is not uncommon for her, but she can wake up despite us having a plan and message me and be like, do you know what? I'm just feeling really overwhelmed today, or something happened last week and it's just really spun me. So I just don't think I can make it and I can't meet up with you. And it's taken me a long time to interpret that as actually a good thing. It's very, I'm happy and I'm
mm,
proud that she's able to put herself first in that way,
mm,
which is something I could never have done at her age. I was very much like, I've made a commitment. It doesn't matter if I've had the worst uh, day yesterday and I had two
mm,
hours sleep and I'm not, rejuvenated and I'm not ready and I don't have any social battery. It doesn't matter. I've made a commitment to someone and I'm doing it. And I think millennials confused grit with self harm almost, with how much we've really put ourselves last. And this
mm,
new Gen Z arguably might take it a bit too far the other way, but at least they
mm.
can call out what their needs are and at least they know how to see to them, which I take as a win.
Yeah, yeah, that's good because yeah, I'm definitely like, well, if I made the commitment today,
This is
I
it,
am going to see
exactly.
it through because I don't
Hmm.
want to be seen as flaky. I think some of it is like, well, I don't want to be perceived a certain way because I canceled because I wasn't feeling well and da 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 da. Da. And so that's wonderful. Good for her because yeah,
And I
and
think that's the moment where we can learn from the younger generation. Like there's so much
mm,
negative press about them and how they're lazy and they're spoiled and they're this and they're that. But it's like really and truly, are we just jealous that they know how to advocate for themselves in a way that we
mm-hmm,
never did? And I
yeah.
think that is the case.
Yeah. 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 That definitely could be it. That we wish maybe I should have or I could we could still, turn that page and say, actually, today
Don't
I
want to do this.
overbooked myself or I have
Mm,
too much on my plate or whatever and that's boundaries, getting back to, the
exactly.
whole boundaries thing, we could even go there like how do you approach setting boundaries as a part of your emotional healing?
Um, Setting boundaries is hard. Again, I've needed help with that throughout.
Mm,
And I still do. If I drop my guard, I will be boundaryless because I'm a chronic boundaryless person. I was brought up in a very boundaryless
mm,
way, as a lot of us were. So how do I set boundaries? Again, I check in with myself a lot, and I surround myself with people who are better than me at
mm,
setting boundaries. My partner, for example, is very good. He was brought up in a different way where there were a lot of boundaries. So it's very normalized to him. So he can see a situation that I'm diving into and he's very good at checking it, pulling me up and being like, you said you're tired all week, you're doing this, you're 30
mm,
weeks pregnant, for example. Is it right that you've made three plans on a Saturday? Just wondering. And something like that will make me think, okay, do you know what? Maybe I've overcommitted here. Maybe it's a boundary that I shouldn't do this, maybe that.
mhm.
So, yeah, I've learned what my strengths and my weaknesses are, and I've learned who I can learn from, and I've surrounded myself with them because I think that's the only way it's going to happen. You can talk about it all day long, but if you haven't
Mhm.
grown up having that instilled in you, it's very hard, especially as you become an adult, to just learn it. So you need the extra help.
Yeah. And to me that sounds like community. Like you got to get
Mm,
out. I think there's a lot of things that we can do alone. We can read, we can listen to podcasts like this, we can do all those things, but practice. Like I consider my friends and even just the communities that I'm involved in to be like, okay, this is my practice ground in a little bit in a kind of a way like okay, and even then it requires you to be vulnerable, and I think that
hmm
that can also be really scary is after maybe you've been in a community or you've been in a relationship that just tore you down, and that's the reason why you need emotional healing. And so to get back into community, that can be hard, but knowing, let's look at the benefits, let's look at the limits, knowing that okay, in a community I can actually see, I can witness what maybe emotional health looks like, or I can learn words. I think a lot of, for me, sometimes with setting boundaries, it's like, well, I don't really have the words, but my thing would always be like, I don't have the words, but I do have the words, but the words are going to come out very direct. And I
Mm-mm.
know that sometimes direct communication comes off as mean, or you didn't take my feelings into consideration. And it's like, no, I'm just trying to say what I have to say, and I don't know how to say it any other way. And so I've had situations where it's like that, and they're like, oh, well, maybe if you said it like this, then it wouldn't have come off as hurtful, and you didn't mean it to be hurtful. And it's like, oh, okay, but you have to learn that in community. And even then I could say, the hell with that advice, or I can accept it and see how it goes.
Yeah, and also like, I think sometimes we need to normalize a bit of direct communication because
Mm,
people, when they are, being selfish about your boundaries or crossing your boundaries, that's
mm-hmm.
very direct, and
Yeah.
no one has any problem with that. So I should be able to say to you, no, I don't want to be here anymore, or no, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not coming to that because, again, being pregnant, I've really struggled with my social battery. And I've had to say to all of my friends, like, I have a max of 2 hours to give. I want to see you. I love you. I love spending time. It's really good for me, really good for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I can do 2 hours and that's it. And most of my friends have been like, yeah, 100%, no problem. But some of my friends have been very offended by that, and they
Mm-hmm.
think that's quite like disrespectful of me, especially if they're traveling from a far place and they're coming to see me and stuff like that. But I can't be responsible for how you're gonna take something where I've explained it's not
Mm-hmm.
personal, it's my social battery. I've got a limited resource at the moment. If
Mm-hmm.
you can't get that, or if you're taking that in a bad way, then that is on you, unfortunately. I've laid it out and I've been very clear with you, and I've tried to be as kind with my delivery as possible. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact that I can only do 2 hours. So we can say it in a very nice way, or I can tell you
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's good right there. And that's something, again, with just healing. I don't know if it's emotional healing, but for me it's definitely healing. Like, you do not have to manage other people's emotions. They are, let them, like the
Mm,
whole Mel Robbins, she has a book called Let Them, and I've just been trying to find real life cases where it's like, let that person, just let them, like, let them
exactly.
be upset, let them have whatever reaction or response to whatever it is that you have to do. Let them. And then also
Mm,
let yourself, like, let yourself
totally.
say it how you need to say it. If you want to go back and correct it later, if but I think that's just something to work through. Like, man, I think it's all rooted in trauma, just from being told, oh, you're mean, or just these different
Exactly.
stories that,
Selfish,
yeah.
mean, only think about yourself, all of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of that, all of that. Okay. So what else? So how do you adapt then different healing strategies to fit your different individual needs? Especially when you're working with others.
Um, I haven't managed this that well, and
Mm,
this is something I'm still working on. Like I am an emotional person, but I'm very good at not burdening people with my
mm-hmm,
emotions. So sometimes people who do have a tendency to burden, because they don't feel like they can cope on their own, and they will just, be like, oh, this is going wrong for me, this is going wrong for me, blah 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 blah. I've got a lot of people in my life like that. So I think
mm-hmm,
because of that, that's why I am not like that. But people like that struggle to be there for people like myself, where I see it very, very clearly. I'm like, I've not come to you, I've not emotionally dumped on you,
mm-hmm,
but I am going through something right now. So, would it be possible for you to be there for me? Because that's such a different way than they would choose to let out emotion. they just don't take it seriously, and they're like, "Oh, you must be fine because when I'm feeling like that,
Mm,
I can't string a sentence together. I'm just in a really bad way. So you must be fine. The fact that you've been able to tell me you're not feeling good means you're all right." And then
mm,
they keep not being there and not being there consistently until you're really at breaking point, and that's when they're like, "Oh, she must need some help now because you're at breaking point." So I still haven't managed to crack that one. I don't know
mm.
how else to, because I refuse to become what I don't like myself. I'm not going to
Yeah.
become a burdener just because that seems to be the only way you understand. I think the responsibility is on you to become better at emotionally interpreting things. Um, but I think, yeah, I haven't really got many ways that I adapt my techniques. I just keep with the same thing, rightly or wrongly.
Hmm.
And if a person I notice consistently can't do that, then I will just retract until I feel like I've got capacity.
Yeah. 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 And that's real. That's honest. I mean, if I were to answer this question, I don't know what I would say. How do I adapt different healing strategies to fit others' needs? I it would depend. As a mother, I could adapt with my child,
Mm, mm,
but anybody else, I might not
no.
care that
Where's
much.
the
I don't
bandwidth?
know.
How do
I
you
don't
have
know.
the energy?
I don't know
Mm,
that I could. I would just be sorry, friend, but because at some point I think I was that person. Like, let
mm,
me shape myself, let me shape shift a little bit, let me, alter myself to fit what somebody else needs. And it didn't feel good.
no.
It didn't
I'm
feel
way
good.
less resentful now. I used to do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things out of feeling like duty, and now I
Mm-hmm.
don't. I have way less resent because I'm like, I would do them and be resentful that I've done it, and I'd be tired and energy zapped and all the rest of it, and I'd be like, oh, I wish I hadn't have done that, but I didn't feel like I could say I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And now I say I can't do it, and yes, I might upset more people, but I don't feel resentful because I'm spending my time how I want to spend it. So
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's so funny. Earlier today, so it's my dad's birthday this weekend. His birthday's tomorrow. And so we were gonna have a family breakfast, but they got up late. And so I was like, okay, they were asking for me and my daughter to come have breakfast over there. And I'm like, okay, but I only have so much time. Like I have something to do right at 12. I gotta go. Went over there, nothing was being cooked, but I'm like, we're
mm-mm,
here. My dad's recovering from last night's shenanigans. I'm like, I don't think breakfast is being cooked. I'm like, it's 12:30 now. But that's right. I'm like, we'll still show up because that's what I said I would do. I said, well, I will show up. What? I said, oh, you know what? It is 11:45. I've got to go. I told my dad I will see you later when I get done with what I got to do, but I will see you later. Peace. Put my phone on do not disturb and let's record this podcast. But it was like, okay, this is my time. And I think my family, they're understanding because now I'm older. Like, you're grown. You're gonna do what
mm,
you want to do with your time. Like we tried to connect at a specific time. It didn't work out. That's okay. I think that
yeah.
now that I'm older, it's fine. But when I was younger, man, I it just that never would have been okay, I think. But I also have been really vocal about what my needs are and what it is that I'm doing, just so they know. Like, I'm not
Mm,
just disappearing into the night, but like, this is what I have going on. Let me inform you. And then it is what it is.
totally.
They could be trying to call me right now. I have no idea. My phone's on do not
Yeah.
disturb, but
But also, it's about how, because I have this conversation with my mum a lot. So she's someone who allows her time to be disrespected chronically by
mm,
family, by friends, and whatever. And we will have conversations with the same people, and they will never come to my occasion or my event late, or if we make a plan they will communicate, they'll let me know they're on the way, they'll let me know if they're going to be late
mm,
by 5-10 minutes. It's never anything crazy. Or she'll make the same plans with the same people and they will walk all over her, won't let her know, won't check in, won't this, won't that.
mm,
And I've said it's because it's how people treat you is a reflection of how you allow yourself to be treated. I've made it clear
Yeah.
to people on multiple occasions, if you mess me around, then we won't see each other today because my time is very important and I genuinely have other things to do. And me having other
Mhm.
things to do doesn't necessarily mean that it's things that you might think is important. You know, if I tried to explain to my dad, sorry, I have to leave early because I'm going to go and record a podcast, he won't understand what that means. Like
Yeah.
that's not a valid excuse to him. But regardless, I don't have to care that if he understands it or not. That's what's
Mhm.
happening. I'm going to be gone at 12. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's just about role modeling to people how you need them to treat you. And it's not always going to
Mhm.
be respected, but then that's an option for you to know, okay, this person generally doesn't seem to care when I give them my timings. So now need to change how I'm being. Am I going to continue to make plans with them when I have such tight restrictions? Or am I going to change when we meet up because clearly they have a problem getting there? Whatever it might be.
I wanted to say, so one of the things that I've heard a friend tell me, because I'm like, you got to tell people how to treat you. And she's like,
Mm,
no, people should just know. I'm like,
mm-mm,
that seems very immature. Like, you have to literally tell people. We were talking about like being in an intimate relationship with a
mhm,
partner. And I
mhm.
said, no way. They're human. They're probably someone you've never even, we're all unique and different. So I'm like, I'm gonna tell someone what I like. I'm gonna tell
Mhm,
them what I don't like. I'm gonna tell them my needs and what I
mhm,
expect. And then it is what it is. And I'm gonna tell them this is how, I'm used to being treated or how I wished and desired to be treated. And she was like, that's like they should just know. And I'm like, I don't think people are just gonna know. If you don't say anything, how are they supposed to know that?
100%, yeah. And also as well, like the same goes for people I liken that to people that are afraid or don't in like, okay, no one enjoys, but that shy away from confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that is a really big mistake, especially sadly, again, I'm not bashing them, but we
Mm-hmm.
tend to be brought up to be people pleasers and peacekeepers, but we need to be more comfortable disrupting and being
Yeah.
someone who is known for, okay, this she's going to cause a problem about this, so let's not do it. I'm more than happy, I work in tech. I'm surrounded by men. I'm typically the
Okay.
only woman on every call I'm on. And I didn't get to the position I'm in by being a people pleaser and just, keeping the peace. Sometimes I need to tell men who are twice, triple my age, earning triple what I earn or could ever earn, that they're doing it
Mm-hmm.
wrong and that they need to change something. And a lot of women will be like, oh no, don't say anything, don't this, don't that. But
Yeah.
if you don't say anything, how are you going to make the changes? How are you going to get this thing to work? And if we apply that to real life as well, it comes the same with like money, for example. People get funny about asking for their money back, and the people
Yeah.
who've taken your money are hoping, they're counting on you not asking. So
Yeah.
you can't complain that you don't have your money back if you haven't asked for it. So yeah, I think that we need to people who are like ourselves, who have a natural ability to advocate for ourselves, sometimes do ourselves a disservice by doing it for other people as well. And that's how people can be more comfortable just not saying anything because they know there's always going to be a
Mhm.
Miss Win, or there's always going to be
Mhm.
a Maya who's going to speak up for them. And I think that we need to stop doing that because no one's speaking up for me. I've had to engineer this skill.
Mhm.
So yeah, I agree with you. I think you need to tell people what you need and you need to be clear about it.
Yeah. 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 And I'm like, even if it makes you a villain, because that would be something that I would hear as a comeback. Well, I don't want to be the bad guy. I don't want to be, there was a situation that's coming to mind with a friend, and it was, you know, her daughter was somewhere and her daughter wasn't answering her phone. Her daughter was away from her. I'm like, that could never happen. First of all, I only have one daughter. It's just her and I. She's my only child. If you're not answering the phone as an adult and you have my child, I'm on my way to your house and it's going to be a problem.
Mm,
And when I get there, I do not care about hurting your feelings because you weren't answering the phone or your phone something was going on. I'm going to figure out what's going on and everybody's going to feel what I'm saying and
uncomfortable,
all
yeah.
of that. Oh, at that point I'm going to be the villain and it's going to be okay. I said, "Girl, if you do not
Mm,
blow their phone up about your child. What? Why is this even
mm-mm,
a question? Oh, I don't want to be the bad guy.
100%.
oh, I'm going to be the bad guy today because you thought it was going to be okay for you not to answer my call and you have my child in your custody
Care.
right now. In
Mm,
your care right now. Yeah. Oh no. I'm like, oh, sometimes you have to be the villain because like you said, there's it we have villains in our story that we can identify, and whether it was intentional or unintentional, it just is what it is. So I'm like, I sometimes you just have to be the bad guy and it is when it is, and that's okay. Yeah.
totally agree.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, this has been such a meaningful conversation. I thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we close?
I would like to urge listeners to listen to my podcast, Maya's Minutes. I know there's a point we made earlier about the importance of creating community around you and being, for me, it's about taking something that I, again, have a natural ability to do. I naturally can speak and convey my point of view well. And I like to do that on the behalf of people who don't know how to do that as well. And then
Mm,
they can just use my episodes to share with someone and be like, oh, this is what I meant, or this is, what do you think about this? I'm big on thought provocation. I think,
mm,
similar to yourself, the work we're doing is not about clickbait. It's not about fast, quick, easy come, easy go, popcorn kind of conversations. This is
mm,
about deep, meaningful conversations, a DMC, which is going to get people thinking and move us all towards being more self-aware and more healed and just better members of society. So I think I definitely do that on my podcast as well.
mhm.
And I would urge everyone to check it out: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Maya's Minutes podcast, and obviously Spotify and all major um, podcast platforms.
That's it for today's check in. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, hit that subscribe or follow button, and let's keep growing together. Hey, and if you're tuning in on YouTube, drop your after emoji in the comments and tell me what shifted for you. I'll see you next time on Miss Win Checking In, where creativity is a pathway to wellness.